The Cocteau Twins were an absolutely amazing band that blended dream pop, shoegaze, and even gothic sounds. Some of their albums are even regarded as some of the best albums of all time. I absolutely adore this group. They have such a unique dreamlike sound that I just absolutely love. So today, I will be going extensively into the entire history of the group, and what happened to them after they broke up. So, let's dive into some dream pop goodness. Quick note before the video, there's kind of like barely any information about this band online. Still, I tried my best to piece as much information as possible about the band in this video. There's only like one book about the band I could find, but it's in French. I don't speak French, so if anyone has a translated copy of it, I would greatly appreciate it. But enough rambling, let's get right into it. The Cocteau Twins formed in Grangemouth, Scotland. Their name was taken from a very obscure track by the Glasgow band Simple Minds. Furthermore, there's a lot of conflicting information about like how they started online. Wikipedia says the band formed in 1979 with just Robin Guthrie and Will Heggie, and then Elizabeth Fraser joined them in 1981 at a club. However, there's also information online that says that they started as a trio in 1982, so I honestly cannot conclusively state what year they were formed. However, at least to my knowledge, they didn't publish any music or do really anything until 1982. So let's just start there. The group consisted of Robin Guthrie on guitars and drums, Will Heggie on bass, and Elizabeth Fraser on vocals. Robin Guthrie was born on January 4th, 1962. As a child, he had no formal music training, but did have instruments around the home, and he was close friends with Will Heggie. The two of them were actually in a band together in 1980 called The Liberators. They released a single with 3 songs called My Part of Town, and this is... This is literally Blitzkrieg Bop by the Ramones. However, this group really didn't go anywhere. Elizabeth Fraser was born on the 29th of August in 1963. As a teen, she had a very troubled life. She developed eating disorders and was even kicked out of the house by their parents for how they dressed. She turned to music as an escape and was influenced by musicians such as Susie Sue, and even had a tattoo of her on her arm. Her honestly life-dependent love of music led to her meeting Robin Guthrie and Will Heggie and joining the band. And on June 12th, 1982, they recorded a 5-track John Peel session. This 5-track demo featured the songs Wax and Wane, Garlands, A Lass Dies Laughing, Feathers O'er, and Blades. These songs are very gothic and dreamy, such as the track Wax and Wane, which features these almost ghost-like vocals over these dreary and almost hypnotizing guitar leads. After the recording of the demos, Guthrie got a letter from John Peel. Guthrie recalls the letter in an interview by saying, "John Peel wrote us back a nice letter saying it was really good and everything, and Evo phoned us and said, 'Hey, want to come and make a record?' We were sort of naive into what we were doing, so much so that we just sort of expected it. Of course we want to make a record, we're fucking good! You know no trouble." After this, the band started to work on their debut album, Garlands. During the recording, they actually invited 2 new people to play in the band. John Murphy was set to play on drums, and a woman named Carol, who was a friend of Fraser, was set to be a secondary vocalist. However, John Murphy asked Guthrie to pay for his travel expenses, and Guthrie did not want to pay this at all, so he just kicked him out and just opted to use a drum machine. This choice led to the album having a very electronic sound, which would later be a key defining trait about the sound of the band. So, little did Guthrie know that this little act of just trying to save some money actually kind of formed one of the key aspects of his band's sound. But what about Carol? Well, she was actually in the band for 2 weeks. However, it just didn't work out. But anyway, the album Garlands was then released on July 10th, 1982, on the record label 4AD. The label would later publish most of their albums. The album cover also was photographed by Nigel Grayson, and fun fact, the album cover was actually an unused outtake for a potential cover for the Susie and the Banshees album, Scream. Further speaking about the packaging of the album, Carol's name actually was immortalized on the inner sleeve of the album, which read, "Dear Carol, we shall both die in your rosary, Elizabeth." But enough about the packaging, let's look at the music. The album features 8 songs with a runtime of 35 minutes and 24 seconds. 2 of the songs were re-recorded versions of the songs on their 5-track demo. This sound here is still very reminiscent of that 5-track demo though. Very electronic and very gothic. In fact, arguably, this is the Cocteau Twins' most gothic album. Songs like Blood Bitch epitomize this idea. The album was released to a fairly decent success, reaching number 14 on the UK indie chart. However, critically, the album was panned. Many different publications viewed the band as a Susie clone. Even the newspaper spin saying that the album sounds like Susie and the Banshees with echo and smeared mascara. This isn't surprising due to Susie being a huge influence on Fraser. But Guthrie also didn't really like the album at all, saying in an interview in 2006, "There was a lot about Garlands that we were really unhappy with. One of the things that we had done on the demo, and used to do playing live, was put our drum bucks through fuzz pedals and guitar amps, so that it came out sounding really mashed up, which was what the hip-hop guys came up with a couple years later. When we got to the studio, there were all these technicians who were like, 'Oh no, you can't do this stuff.' We felt really intimidated. They wouldn't let us touch any of their stuff. It was like we were wee boys and they were grown-ups. We were like, 'You set up the drum machine like that.' And they were like, 'Oh no, you can't do that. It's going to be in the red.' The drums, as a result, came out sounding clean and drum machine pristine. It was disappointing." Despite the mixed reception, John Peel was actually a very big fan of the album, and invited the band to play a live set for his radio program. But anyways, after this, the band went on to crafting their next endeavor. During this time, Fraser started working on her vocals and finding her own unique sound, so that she wasn't just seen as another Sushi clone. This can be seen on their next release, which was an EP called Lullabies, released on October of the same year. It features 2 songs from the debut John Peel demo and 1 new song. This new song is called It's All But an Arc Lark and has a length of 8 minutes and 4 seconds. And let's listen to it. Now, what is she even saying? Well, actually, nothing. This song right here marks the first instance of one of the key defining aspects of the band, which is lyrics that don't make any sense and aren't even words. Basically gibberish. The Cocteau Twins followed this up on April 4th, 1983 by releasing another EP titled Peppermint Pig. The EP continued with the idea of having nonsense lyrics. Both of these EPs were somewhat moderate successes, but nothing too crazy. Following this, the band went on a tour opening for Orchestral Movements in the Dark, also known as OMD. During this tour, however, bassist Will Heggie would end up leaving the band. The reasons for him leaving aren't really known. However, right after leaving, he joined another band called Lowlife. We'll get back to that later. But now, the Cocteau Twins are just a duo of Robin Guthrie and Elizabeth Fraser, and despite them only being 2 people now, the band released their second album, Head Over Heels, on October 24th, 1983. This album marks a turn for the Cocteau Twins really finding their sound. The sound here is just ethereal, and take a listen to the amazing track Sugar Hiccup. The unique sound can be attributed to Guthrie changing how he approached the songs, where instead of trying to find the right notes to play, he more focused on the effects on his guitar, which created this unique sound. The album received fairly positive critical success, being ranked number 7 in an end-year list for the top album of 1983 by the magazine Sounds. It also was a moderate commercial success, reaching number 53 on the UK indie charts. The band released another EP later that year titled Sunburst and Snowblind, which features 4 tracks that actually have discernible lyrics. The EP, however, only reached number 86 on the UK singles charts. Following this, the band participated in 4AED's This Mortal Coil project, which spawned the creation of a cover of the song Song to the Siren by Tim Buckley. This song actually became their most successful song at the time, despite not being under the name Cocteau Twins, reaching number 66 on the UK single charts. During the recording of this song, the two became acquainted with the multi-instrumentalist Simon Raymonde. Simon Raymonde was formerly of the band Drowning Craze, which had released 3 singles. Their song, Storage Case, sonically has a few similarities to the Cocteau Twins and is a fairly great track. Have a listen. This inevitably led Raymonde to joining the Cocteau Twins later in 1983. Following this, the band released their first EP with Raymonde in April 22nd, 1983, titled The Spangle Maker. This EP features the song Pearly-Dewdrops Drops, which is an absolutely amazing track. The song also feels a bit different than their previous work. I think it's probably because of the inclusion of Simon Raymonde. Have a listen. This song became their biggest hit yet, reaching number 1 on the UK indie charts and number 29 on the UK singles charts. This song also received the first music video from the band. This track remains one of the band's greatest and most iconic songs, even being used in the soundtrack for the 2012 film Perks of Being a Wallflower. Now, with this EP featuring one of their greatest and most successful songs yet, how are they going to follow it up? Well, they did, with a bang. On November 12th, 1984, the Cocteau Twins released their album Treasure. The album features their most streaming and ethereal songs yet. Take a listen to the track Lorelei. The album was also an immediate critical success. BBC Online writing, Treasure was where the Cocteau Twins first got it 100% right. Furthermore, the magazine Melody Makers stated in a review of the album that they work like receivers. Something plays itself through them and reaches us untainted and pure. There are dimensions to Treasure which strike me as spiritual. It invades the body, intoxicates the imagination, and secures the soul. Surely, this band is the voice of God. The album also reached number 29 on the UK charts, and even reached number 34 on the New Zealand charts, and number 32 on the Swedish charts, making this the first time the band had any success out of England. The public and critics adored this album, but what did the band think? Well, they actually kind of hated it. Robin Guthrie sang in an interview, Treasure sounds to me like a really dated record, because of the early digital stuff and the technology we used on that record. It's got good things on it, but it's certainly not got that timeless quality. And Simon Raymonde saying that the album was an abortion, our worst album by a mile, yet it seems to be the one people like the best, and it's probably sold the best. Honestly, I do find it strange that the band hated this album so much, since honestly, it's really good. However, Guthrie has always been a very harsh critic of his own work, so it makes a bit of sense. Following this, the band released another EP entitled Akia Guinea on March 4th, 1985. The EP was a decent success, reaching number 41 on the UK singles charts. The EP, however, is more of the same. After this, the band continued to record more songs. During this time, they got a new studio and started messing around with different sounds. These sessions became the Cocteau Twins' next EP, released on November 15th, 1985, titled Tiny Dynamite. Guthrie describes the album as, "It's the best sounding record we've ever made, technically and everything. If you play it, it sounds good. We're learning to make records that sound better when you put them on. These records make me happy." And I mean, wow, he's not lying. This album sounds spectacular. This album also marks another sonic shift in the band's sound. I can't really place my finger on it, but it seems more ethereal and dreamy than the last few records. Take a listen to the song Pink, Orange, Red. The EP reached number 52 on the UK singles charts, and 2 weeks later, the band released another EP, Echoes in a Shallow Bay. Both of these EPs have a complementary artwork, and were later released as a double EP. The EP features more songs recorded in the previously mentioned sessions. The EP got to number 68 on the UK singles charts as well. Following this, the band released a compilation album called The Pink Opaque on January 13th, 1986. The compilation features many of their songs from their past EPs. After this compilation, 4AD enlisted Simon Raymonde to help work on the 4AD collective band This Mortal Coil's next album, Filigree and Shadow. This left Robin Guthrie and Elizabeth Fraser alone for a few months. During this time, the two decided to work on another album with just the two of them. They released the album Victoria Land on April 14th, 1986. This album is one of the band's most distinct. It is their most ambient album they have ever released. The album features a light, dreamy sound with Fraser's indecipherable lyrics. The album is honestly one of their most underrated works, and it has put me to sleep plenty of times. In a good way though, like it's ambient and puts me to sleep in a good way. Take a listen to the song Lazy Calm. The album was received fairly positively and reached number 10 on the UK album charts. After that, Raymonde joined back and they released another EP on September 1st, 1986 called Love's Easy Tears. The EP goes back to the sound of their previous EPs and reached number 53 on the UK charts. After this, the Cocteau Twins started to work with Harold Budd. Harold Budd was a minimalist avant-garde composer from Southern California who had previously worked with Brian Eno. The Cocteau Twins and Harold Budd recorded a more ambient album over the next 2 months. The album was titled The Moon and the Melodies and was released on November 10th, 1986. The album is most well known for the song Sea Swallow Me, which is one of the band's most popular songs. And yeah, this song is simply amazing. It deserves all the popularity it has. However, interesting thing about this album, only half of the songs feature Fraser. The entire album itself is very ambient, but only half of it does feature the lead singer of the Cocteau Twins. In an interview about this album, Robin Guthrie says, "I don't know if it actually worked, but working with Harold is great. I think it turned out more like 4 songs that sounded like us and 4 songs that sounded like him, which wasn't really the plan. We met him and he just seemed like such a nice bloke. I don't care about the music he makes or the music that any of the people I work with make, because quite often, it's that you meet them and you like them, and therefore you want to do something. I like Harold because of his very laid-back nature." The album received mixed reviews and failed to chart, however. Following this, the next year the band released 1 song. Yeah, after releasing so much music in such a short amount of time, it makes sense that they want to take a break. The 1 song that they released was for a 4AD compilation album called Lonely is an Eyesore. It features songs from other 4AD artists such as Throwing Muses, Dead Can Dance, Diff Juz, and others. The song the Cocteau Twins made was called Crush, and it even got a music video. And honestly, I think this song is very great. Have a listen. The song was released in July of 1987, and the band stayed dormant for the rest of the year. The band would get back together in 1988 and record their next album, Blue Bell Knoll. Blue Bell Knoll was released on September 19th, 1988 in the United Kingdom and America. Yeah, during this time, the Cocteau Twins signed with Capitol Records in America, making this their first album to be released in America. The recording of this album didn't take long. The album was just one where everything seemed to come together. Fraser saying in an interview, "Blue Bell was the easiest I've ever done to make a record." And Raymonde saying, "It really felt like a period of creativity and freedom. We were all getting on great musically and socially. Liz and Robin were about to have a baby, and I was about to get married. There was lots of joy around. Very productive. It was a really fun record to make." Oh wait, did I forget to mention that Elizabeth Fraser and Robin Guthrie were dating? Yeah, throughout the entire band's history, they were kind of like on and off about their relationship together, which is why I really didn't mention it till now, because something happened, which is that they had a baby together. But despite this, the two of them decided not to get married. Anyway, now back to the album. Wow, this might be their best album yet. It is the most refined, most polished, and it can even be seen as proto-shoegaze. Take a listen to the song Carolyn's Fingers. This song's released as a single in America, where it reached number 2 on the Billboard Alternative charts, and the album reached 109 on the Billboard 200 and 15 on the UK album charts. The album was also very critically acclaimed, NME ranking it number 33 on their Best Albums of 1988 list. After this, the band took a short break in 1989. During this break, Elizabeth Fraser gave birth to Lucy Bell Guthrie in September of 1989. Now, everything seemed to be going great for the band. Simon just got married, Fraser and Guthrie are in love, and they had a baby. And they just made, arguably, their best and most successful album yet. Well, how did they progress from here? How did they top Bell Knoll? Well, somehow they did it. And, oh, how they did it. On September 7th, 1990, the Cocteau Twins released their album, Heaven or Las Vegas. This is one of the best albums of all time. Everything from the previous albums have been cranked up to 11. The lyrics here make even less sense and the sound is just so much more dreamy. I cannot really do this album justice by explaining it. If you somehow have not listened to this album before, do it now. The title track, Heaven or Las Vegas, is up there as one of my favorite songs of all times. It is absolutely amazing. And honestly, this is the first Cocteau Twins album that I would say is actually perfect. There's not a single song on here that is bad. Every song on here is great. Ice Blink Luck is just amazing, and Cherry Colored Funk is like this kind of like, has like an inspirational feel to it. This album's just so good for listening to while you're looking outside of a window. I have this distinct experience that I had like a week ago where I rode a train to and from Miami to go to my friend's birthday party, which was like an hour and a half train ride. And I just spent the whole time listening to this album, like looking out the window, listening to Heaven or Las Vegas at night. Ah, just an experience. Just an amazing experience. And also, the train is like raised up above the ground too. So I'm looking over the city of Miami at night while listening to Heaven or Las Vegas. Honestly, one of my favorite experiences in my entire life. Now, enough yapping about Miami. Not only did this album sound amazing, it also did commercially great. It reached number 9 on the UK album charts, and number 99 on the US album charts. Furthermore, critically this album was a huge success. Pitchfork gave it a 10 out of 10, which is something only 176 albums have ever gotten, meaning this album is one of the greatest albums of all time in Pitchfork's eyes. And Rolling Stone magazine in 2020 called it the 245th greatest album of all time. Guthrie even sang in an interview about a listening party for the album. One of the things that's a standout in my memory was the little party we had just at the end, when all the mixing had been done and had been sequenced, and there was a whole bunch of our mates over to listen to it for the first time. And part of you is just looking at how they're reacting. What's the worst thing in the world? When you're playing someone a new song and 20 seconds into it they start talking about themselves. Well, this was 40 minutes of just silence and mouths open. That, for me, was a very powerful moment. It was like, wow, it's a goodie. However, the recording of this album was actually very troubled. Raymonde was adjusting to becoming a husband. Fraser and Guthrie had to be parents. Fraser and Guthrie's relationship started to fall apart and became strained. And Guthrie started to get highly addicted to drugs, namely cocaine. These struggles all started to weigh in on the band. Despite this, they persevered and they went on to their first tour, albeit with pressure from the label to do so. The Heaven or Las Vegas tour. It toured Europe, the UK, and America from October 16th, 1990, starting in the Netherlands, to April 10th in 1991 in Miami. I looked at footage of this concert online and wow, it's simply amazing. Take a look at some of it. Also, Galaxy 500 and Mazzy Star were openers for a few of the shows on the tour. If only I wasn't negative 16 years old when this tour happened. Following the tour, issues in the band started to build up. Guthrie and Fraser broke up, and Guthrie couldn't stop doing drugs. The band took a 2-year break whilst Guthrie went to rehab. Then, in 1993, the band rejoined again and recorded their next album, 4 Calendar Cafe, on October 18th, 1993. The album was promoted with a performance on The Tonight Show with Jay Leno, their first performance on American TV, with the song Bluebeard. The album is also their first album not on 4AD, and instead being on Fontana. The sound is a bit less dreamy and more pop-oriented than Heaven or Las Vegas. It is still a great album though, with amazing songs such as Know Who You Are at Every Age and My Truth. The band liked the album, with Raymonde saying, "I think it's an amazing record, and I think people will probably realize that many years in the future, it was such a departure from what we had done before. And the fact that it wasn't on 4AD, and the fact we jumped ship and we were on the other side, with The Enemy on a major label. I think people are sort of like, oh, that can't be good. But I think in time people will realize what a great album 4 Calendar Cafe is, because I think it's beautiful." The album reached number 13 on the UK album charts and number 78 on the Billboard Top 200. And, fun fact, 2 of the songs here, Bluebeard and Know Who You Are at Every Age, were covered in 1994 by Chinese singer Fei Wong. These covers are honestly amazing, and by the way, I just want to say I adore Fei Wong. She is one of my favorite musicians, and I think it's really cool how she covered these songs. And the fact that the songs are in Chinese doesn't really matter because you couldn't tell what Fraser was saying in the first place. Following the release of 4 Calendar Cafe, the band worked on a single. The single was called Snow and was released in December of 1993, and it features Christmas music. Yeah, the Cocteau Twins have covers of Winter Wonderland and Frosty the Snowman, and I love them. I make sure to play these around Christmas time. After that, the band went on tour and released no new music during 1994. However, personally, something interesting was going on. More specifically with Elizabeth Fraser, because during this time she met and later started dating Jeff Buckley. In an interview, she describes how they were both obsessed with each other before they even met.
So to meet Jeffrey was just like being given a set of paints, do you know what I mean? It was just like I had all this colour in my life again. I mean, he idolised me before he met me. It's kind of creepy. And I was like that with him. This is so embarrassing. But it's the truth. I just couldn't help falling in love with him. He was adorable. Definitely.
The two were deeply in love, which influenced the next EP by the band called Twin Lights, released in 1995. Fraser described the EP as, "The EP is about that man." Let's take a look at the song Reiki and Heart. The lyrics of the song say, "Reiki and heart, I looked for you, to give me transcendent experiences, to transport me out of self and aloneness, and alienation into a sense of oneness and connection, ecstatic and magical. I became a junkie for it. I came looking for the next high, and I'm sorry. I've been putting the search on the wrong place. I understand that you're confused, feeling overwhelmed. Well, that's a feeling state from then. The reality with cleaning up my emotion of life." Now, this song is clearly about Jeff Buckley and how he helped her go through the tough time she was having, which he honestly really did. Also, the song is named after Austrian poet Rainer Maria Reich, which is one of Buckley's favorite poets. And also, I love Reich. I read his letters to a young poet like a month ago, and I love it. It's one of my favorite books of all time. You should read it. And actually, Elizabeth Fraser and Jeff Buckley made a song together. Although unreleased, copies of the song have circulated online. The song was titled All Flowers in Time Bend Toward the Sun. And wow, this song is simply amazing. I'm surprised they never released this because it's just that great. Jeff Buckley's and Elizabeth Fraser's voice just goes so well together. However, after this, the love between the two fizzled out, and they didn't really ever see each other again. And unfortunately, Jeff Buckley passed away a few months later in 1997. Now, back to the Cocteau Twins, the band was showing signs of kind of maybe potentially breaking up. Despite this, on April 15th, 1996, the band released their final album, Milk and Kisses. The band was in a horrible state while recording this, and in fact, none of the band was in the same studio at the same time during recording. Guthrie sang in an interview, "Making this record was a very joyous experience. It only took 2 months to record, which for us is amazing. Simon used to come into the studio in the daytime to do his thing, and I would come in at night to do my thing, and then Liz would come in when neither of us were around. We were never in the studio at the same time." The album is honestly pretty good, but not amazing. It's clear that this was their last work. It just feels sort of disconnected, probably because of how it was recorded. And actually, remember Faye Wong from earlier? She actually covered 2 songs off of this album for her album, Fuzhou, which, by the way, is one of the best shoegaze albums of all time. If you haven't heard it, you need to listen to it. Also, the band during this time made an ad for Coca-Cola? Yeah, they made an ad for the Coca-Cola drink Fruitopia, which I don't know if I would drink at all. And after this, the band actually tried to record another album. However, quickly into recording, they realized it just wasn't working out, scrapped the album, and broke up officially in 1997. And honestly, them breaking up kinda makes sense. I mean, it would be pretty hard to make music with your ex that you dated for 13 years that you also have a child with. So honestly, I don't blame them for breaking up. But what did they do after they broke up? Well, let's first go all the way back to Will Heggie in 1983. After breaking up with the Cocteau Twins, Heggie was spotted by a man called David Steele to help his band, Dead Neighbors. Heggie played bass on the second album by the band, Strange Days, Strange Ways, which is a pretty standard post-punk album. The band later in 1985 would change its lineup to be renamed to Low Life. The band released 5 different albums from 1986 to 1995. Their most notable album is their debut album Permanent Sleep in 1986. Besides the vocals, you actually hear a Cocteau Twins-like sound on the song Wild Swan. After the band Low Life broke up in 1995, he kind of retired from music, and I literally cannot find a single thing about him online. The only thing I could find was an account on Instagram called Twisted Romancer. He says he's Scottish and ginger, so it does check out that this could be him. However, the account is private and he won't let me in, so I guess this is where the story ends. Anyway, back to the rest of the group. Let's start with Simon Raymonde. After the breakup, Raymonde released a solo album in 1997 called Blame Someone Else. The album is a pretty decent pop rock album. And wait, let's listen to the song Worship Me. Hey, look at that, it's Elizabeth Fraser. Wow. After this, he became a studio musician. Following that, in 2017, he would create a group called Lost Horizons with Richard Thomas. The group provides instrumentals and has different guest vocalists for each of the songs. They released 2 albums, one in 2017 called Ohala, and one in 2021 called In Quiet Moments. The songs vary in sound, however they all have a generally standard rock feel to them. Moving on, Guthrie had a fairly expansive solo career, one too long to mention in this video fully. However, he has released 16 solo albums, one as recent as 2021, and 3 EPs. Furthermore, he made 2 movie soundtracks with Harold Budd. Yeah, remember him? They're actually very good friends, the two of them. He's also produced and played on a lot of albums. A highlight being the majority of the discography of the band Lush, which honestly explains the band's musical similarities with the Cocteau Twins. And in his personal life, he got married and had another kid and is currently living in France. And lastly, going on to Fraser, right after breaking up from the band, she took a quick break from recording. Then, in 2000, she released a song called Underwater, which is a pretty cool song by her that is in a very different style than her previous work. She later had a guest singing appearance on several albums, most notably Teardrop from the Massive Attack album Mezzanine. It's honestly really cool to hear her voice on such a sonically different instrumental than what she usually is on. She also has 4 other songs on this album as well. Later in 2009, she released a song called Moses, which is also pretty different. And recently, she has started a duo with her now husband Damon Reist called Sun Signature, releasing a self-titled EP in 2022. And I can only describe it as sounding like the songs from Portal. I love it. Personally, Elizabeth Fraser has always been a bit reclusive, as some articles like to put it, or as I like to call it, wanting to live a normal life. Now, one question does stand. Have they ever met up again? Well, actually, kind of, not really though. In 2008, they were awarded the Q Award for being inspirational, and the three, Raymonde, Guthrie, and Fraser, actually collected the award together in person, which was the first time ever being together since they broke up. And it is extremely awkward.
They told me to be gracious. Yeah. Thanks. I was hoping one of those two would do this, but they're not. Yeah. Well, it seems like so many people sort of tell us all the time that the music that we made back then sort of, stayed with them. So that's really, I don't know, just lovely to be part of that. And yeah, that's that. Over we go. You're the singer.
Thanks very much. You've always really been so supportive, and this is actually the first thing we've ever won, which is very bizarre. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you very much, everybody. Thank you.
And after that, the band never met up again until 2022, when Fraser and Guthrie accepted an award by the Ivors Academy. However, for the life of me, I cannot find any footage of it except for this picture. But yeah, besides those two instances, they never reunited as a band playing music, despite attempts to. And they don't seem like really any of them are friends. But in all, the Cocteau Twins are an amazing band from the 80s and 90s that deserves to be remembered for their ethereal, dreamy sound. And they have really influenced music. The band has been called and influenced by many people such as Enya, Beach House, Jeff Buckley, Prince, Madonna, Slowdive, The Weeknd, Always, and others. And actually, The Weeknd sampled the Cocteau Twins. His song The Knowing, released in 2011, sampled the song Cherry Colored Funk. Take a listen. And the band has also been covered by countless artists, such as Deftones. Take a listen to their cover of the song Wax and Wane. But yeah, I like this band a lot, as you can tell by the video being kind of long, actually my longest upload yet. And one thing you might wonder is, especially since a lot of my viewer base is quite older than I am, how did I find about this band? Because I'm only 17. Well, firstly, this band has been regarded as one of the best of like all time. They're like different music forms online. Like it's very popular on TikTok now. It's popular on Mew on 4chan, which I don't use. I'm not on that, but it is a very, very popular online. And yes, I did find them on TikTok. I'm sorry about that, but
yeah, this band has gotten a pretty big resurgence because of TikTok, especially with songs like See Swallow Me and Heaven or Las Vegas. Those have gotten very popular on the talk. And since it's gotten popular on there, a lot of younger people have become fans of the Cocteau Twins. And in fact, shoegaze as a whole, where shoegaze and dream pop have certainly become one of the most popular genres now, and I would say the Cocteau Twins have a lot to do with that. Now, I really didn't say shoegaze too much in this video, though, because I don't know if I should consider Cocteau Twins shoegaze. Like, I consider Heaven or Las Vegas shoegaze, but people online will get, like, really pissy if you call them shoegaze. Like, it's not actually shoegaze, but then other people are like, it is shoegaze. I think it's shoegaze. At least their later works, definitely shoegaze. Their earlier stuff is more like gothic, but I would consider Cocteau Twins shoegaze. But yeah, that's really all. If you like this video, please like and subscribe, and leave a comment down below on the next artist I should make a video like this on. I'm sorry for taking a while to upload. I've been busy with SAT testing and Minecraft, so, yeah, but consistent uploads are happening now. So anyway, but make sure to like and subscribe to my channel if you like the video, and leave a comment on a band that you'd like me to do a video like this on. Anyway, thank you for watching. Bye!